Hi, and welcome to the President's Forum podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith. Today, we're joined by Cheryl Dowd, the director of the State Authorization Network, or SAN, at the Wichita Cooperative for Educational Technologies. Cheryl leads SAN's work supporting institutions as they navigate the evolving landscape of state authorization and professional licensure disclosures. This work is all about student access to a quality education, regardless of where students live. Hi, Cheryl. Great to see you today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me today, Wes.
It's a pleasure. I want to start with the basics for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about the state authorization and how it came to be?
So the State Authorization Network just celebrated its 14th anniversary. We were developed as a response to the first iteration of a federal regulation for state authorization of distance education. We were created by our parent organization, WCET, the Wichita Cooperative for Educational Technologies. And WCET, addresses the broader scheme of practice and policy and advocacy for digital technology and post-secondary education. But there became a need to drill down into what are these implications of state authorization, meaning, the idea of what are the responsibilities of institutions who have out-of-state activities and to those states. So that's how SAN became to be. We are a membership organization that's actually a separate membership organization from WCET. You can belong to both. And in the Venn diagram of areas of our work, we do overlap with some policy, but then SAN, as I said, drills down into those compliance nuances to support our institutions.
Got it. Okay, so from an institutional perspective, why does an institution join SAN?
Sure.
What do they get out of the relationship?
So SAN focuses on providing analysis and training and the collaboration amongst the institutions and agencies that are members of SAN. We have about almost 1,000 institutions and agencies that are a member of SAN nationwide. And so there's the development of practices, compliance processes, to support student consumer protections that are developed through state and federal statutes and regulations. So we help drill that down because, we can try to come up with what the requirements are and then be able to train them to be able to develop this work at their institutions.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm assuming that you're working very closely with other partners for the President's Forum and our institutions, but also including groups like NC Sarah and Marianne Boki.
Yes, we have been for a very long time working with the Sarah community, the entire Sarah community. So not only the NC Sarah office, but the regional compacts and the various state portal entity staff nationwide. But we also work with many institutions that are part of President's Forum. We enjoy a good relationship with NASAPS, which is a group of state regulators, so that we can, humanize what this work is. We each have the same goal of supporting students. So by working together, we can come up with plans to make that work.
So you mentioned, one of the key elements for the President's Forum, and that is putting students first before everything else. So supporting students is just absolutely a critical paradigm for the President's Forum. Tell us a little bit about your work, how it impacts students, especially those in online and distance learning programs.
So the timing of the first iteration of the state authorization of distance education regulation, which was ultimately vacated, which now has a replacement. But at that time, distance education was really growing, and it was providing students with opportunities, greater access to education. And so by being able for an institution to continue serving a student if they move across state lines, or just giving them greater access to opportunities of choice for their education, being able to comply with the state laws to do that is very important, so that, especially think about a military student, they have to move to another location. They don't have to worry about transfer credits. They're able to, move through distance education. They can continue their programs, while located elsewhere.
You are speaking to the hearts of many presidents in the President's Forum, especially when you're talking about serving men and women of the military. Tell me about some of the regulatory challenges that are the most pressing for our institutions that they should be focused on right now?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest things for institutions to understand is that as soon as an activity occurs outside of the home state of the institution, they have responsibilities. And that responsibility is to know if there's any sort of oversight for that activity in this other state. And that could be the higher education agency oversight, but we're also talking about professional licensure. We could be talking about data privacy. We could talk about, if you have staff or faculty in another state, it could be taxes, benefits, Secretary of State. There's a variety of things that can be different state to state. Specifically for institutional approval, we're talking about the higher education agency, and the states vary. And so I did this work before reciprocity. So trying to get my arms around what the requirements are state to state is a challenge, and our friends in California are still dealing with that.
Right.
So variety is an issue, understanding why. And then there's been more of a focus on professional licensure, which we could do a whole podcast on that, because the requirements vary per profession and per state. And so an institution having to have their arms around what the different requirements are to serve students in a licensed profession program in another state is very important.
Are we making progress on that topic, by the way, professional licensure? And if so, tell us a little bit about that. Where are we going? What's the future hold for that?
Sure. So, without getting too much into the weeds, there was a rule that was ultimately vacated and replaced that we have today that requires notifications. And that has been in place since 2020. So, transparency makes perfect sense to indicate, somehow publicly and with direct disclosures that there are programs that lead to a license, and whether your institution knows that they meet or do not meet, and formerly in the old rule that has just been replaced, whether you have no determination. So that made sense. I understood the transparency aspect, but more recently, a new regulation that became effective almost exactly a year ago indicated that an institution to serve a student by distance education had to certify through the program participation agreement that
Okay.
they do meet the educational requirements where the student is located at time of initial enrollment. That was an extra bar. And the problem with what we were concerned about was that the licensing community really could have been beneficial in helping to develop that rule, so that we could have some insights from the different programs, boards, what was be required from
Sure.
them, and also some, just some collaboration.
Right.
So we are making some progress in that some professions are recognizing, let's be more transparent on our national websites and our state websites for that, but it's still an analysis issue. So institutions have to, there's not an approval process necessarily for a program that leads to a license from another state. So I'm in Ohio. So let's say University of Sherrill wants to offer a nursing degree in Minnesota. There isn't a Minnesota process to get approved to offer the program to a student located in Minnesota. So that's
Right.
a challenge. I do know that ACE and NASFA indicated that when this administration was looking at rules to be amended, addressed, that was one that they had suggested needed to be reviewed to see
Right.
what we can do to help support students, future practitioners, to be able to have portability of their education for licensed professions.
Totally agree. There's work to be done there. So I'm glad to have you on the front lines of that and be watching that. Tell us a little bit about, we have so many new technologies and learning models that are appearing in higher education. They continue to reshape the higher education landscape. Can you give us some insight on what that might mean to the regulatory environment moving forward?
Well, I know that as we move forward, there is still, in some circles, some concern about the quality of distance education. So we need to keep banging the drum about it being a viable modality, and that it provides access to learners to be able to not only get their first degree, but also to improve skills. So, when we talk
Right.
about lifelong learning, distance education, or some sort of hybrid model provides that kind of support, to continue in our world, given the technology aspects that we rely upon on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of our members that tune in and listen and are always looking for new insights. So I want to end this with your insight for our institutions. Is there anything that you would encourage our presidents to have an eye on right now that is important for the future of their operations and their students?
I think that we've seen in this political environment, and I think it's a bipartisan situation, about accountability. There is interest in economic accountability so that our students, at least there needs to be some transparency about what their education can provide for them upon completion of the program. I know there's discussion about salary specific, but certainly transparency for students, to know why should they, this return on investment, being able to be transparent with students, why this program will benefit them upon completion. So I would say to presidents, that is something, to continue to review, how can we help our students know that this education is going to be beneficial to them upon completion?
I love it. Accountable innovation. It's something that the President's Forum has been supportive of for a long time, but I'm glad that you brought that to our attention. Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. You're welcome back anytime, and anytime we need to have conversations about issues that will impact our institutions, we invite you. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here today. Thank you.
For our listeners, you can learn more about the joint initiatives with SAN and stay informed on our policy work at presidentsforum.org.